Hey guys, Jared here, or as you also know me, Scenes by Teen, and welcome today to another time-lapse video where today I'm going to be doing a time-lapse on a Minecraft character. It's going to be Steve in some armor, and I thought I would just do a little drawing of him, and you guys can watch me. So, let's get into this. So as you can see, I'm just outlining the basic shape of him. It's not looking too impressive right now, but it will later. So now that we have a basic shape in, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start putting in the actual picture. So right now I'm working on the helmet, trying to get all the lines nice and straight, and I came down to the face, started to outline the face. And this is Minecraft, so when you want to do Minecraft, you want to give it that 3D look, because everything is boxed, remember? Everything is boxy and everything, so you want to give it that box 3D-like shape, and that's kind of what I tried to do in this. Now, this character is I kind of wanted a character that would look somewhat exaggerated, and that's kind of what I tried to do. And the problem was I didn't want him to be too exaggerated, and that's something I kind of struggled with. As you can see here, I'm kind of struggling with a leg. I had a hard time with drawing the legs throughout the video, as you'll see. I finally came to something I was kind of decent with, and I came around to the arm. And then I kind of realized that it was just a little too long. So I erased it and I made it just a little bit shorter, and once again creating that 3D look, I put in a little outline because that's where I wanted a torch to be. And then I kind of wanted the other arm to be holding the sword. And I kind of wanted a pose that would look like as if he's walking in the middle of the night. And as you know, when it's nighttime in Minecraft, mobs spawn. So I kind of wanted it to look like he was walking in a forest or something, and then all of a sudden he hears like a branch snap, and he's ready, he has his torch ready to see whatever it is that's following him, or whatever it is he heard. So I put in the eyes, I kind of have the facial hair and his actual hair going. So as you can see, I'm working on the torch, tried to make it look realistic, or not realistic, but you could tell that the motion was going. So now that I'm starting to get the actual shape in, it was kind of time to start finalizing. So what I did, I just erased whatever I wanted to get rid of, and then I just went over it again. Now one problem I had here that I didn't notice until a little later was that the nose part of the helmet was just a little too short, and that kind of made the eyes look too weird. So, as you'll see in a little while, I'm going to come back to it, I'm going to make it longer, and then I'm going to make the eyes a bit longer, which will make the eye bigger, which gives it a cooler kind of look. You know, it's a little more cartoony. And I'm finally doing it right here, as you can see. And this did make the cartoon look a little cooler. So I came back, put in the nose, and then I came back to his beard. And I try to keep the lines as straight as possible. Notice that I'm not using a ruler, so I couldn't be positive that the lines were going to be parallel or completely straight. I was kind of just eyeballing it. So another thing I kind of struggled with was this arm. I wanted to give a right angle so that you could kind of tell that he was holding a sword. And speaking of the sword, I'm struggling with the hilt, as you can see right now. It's not looking too good. But I decided that I would come back to that later, and I moved on to the next arm, which was totally more easier to do. Now this isn't me actually finalizing the picture yet. When I finalize, I usually outline first with a pen, which you will see me do in a second. So once again, I started to play around with the legs. I wasn't happy with how they were looking. There's something about it that I just couldn't get down. I wasn't happy about it. So I started experimenting, and instead of playing around with a pose, I decided to make the legs longer. And I felt like that would make them look a lot better. And it did. So I decided to play around with how the legs looked, try to figure out what would make him look like he could balance or at least stand up, because you want it to look like he can balance, he can stand. So I came back up to the arm and I made it a little bit, I put in a different sort of angle. And here's where I started to play around with the sword just a little bit more. Now this wasn't the actual thing for the sword, you'll see me do the actual thing in a second. So now it was time to start finalizing with a pen. And when I say finalizing, I mean outline. And this is where things start to get a little more serious, because this is pen, this is permanent. So if you do one thing, there's no going back. So I had to be really careful. But one thing I didn't want to do, I did not want to get my face too into the camera, because I didn't want to get in the way. I wanted the audience to be able to see exactly what I was doing. Obviously that's something I kind of had to ignore, because my head is a little more into the camera than it was earlier. Because you have to keep in mind that I am a perfectionist. I want everything to look absolutely perfect. And I found it kind of hard to try to draw an outline without getting in the way. So that's something I just had to jump in and get done. So I'm coming over to the arm. I'm just kind of going over what I drew with a pen, trying to make sure that everything looks nice and smooth. And I kind of like outlining with a pen just because it gives it a more official sort of look for a cartoon. And I've been doing that lately for my drawings. I've been outlining with a pen. So I came over to the sword and started to give it the final look that I would be using. As you can see, I'm kind of just drawing it in. And I kind of knew what I wanted to look like. I'm not too proud of how it came out, but it was something I could live with, especially for a video. And sorry if you can't see, I was trying to get this just right, because it was hard to draw this, or outline I should say, especially with a pen, and I was not at the best angle. But it was okay, it looked fine to me, and I did the sword, made sure that everything looked even, came over to the torch, and I didn't outline the flame or the beard of Steve's face or his hair, and I thought that would create a cool look later after I colored, but as you will see in a little while, it didn't really do anything, and I did outline it in the end. So right now I'm just erasing stuff so that there would be no pencil marks. And now I was moving on to coloring. Now I could have just jumped in and color stuff and kind of just try to do it based on where the lighting is. And I referred back to a picture so that I knew where all the pixels would go and everything, and I kind of wanted to stick to that sort of look. So as you can see, I'm outlining it with a darkened area, and then I do the inside with a lighter version of the same pencil, same color, and then I'd have some white spots around it just so that it would look like it's reflecting the light of the torch. I came over to this side of the helmet, and I'm doing the same thing. Outlined it with the dark side, and then had a little white spot to show a little reflection, and then I came to the inside with the same color lighter. Now as I came over here to the top part of the helmet, things were a little tougher. Things were a little harder to color with because the outline had to be a lot thinner. It was harder to get it just right. But I kind of just winged it, tried to do the best I could, and it turned out okay. So now I started coloring in the beard. And then I come over to his hair. Now, I wanted to also show that he had a nose. So what I did, I used the same pencil that I used for his skin, and when I got to the nose, I just shaded in a little darker, just to make it stick out more. And something wasn't looking right with this drawing. It wasn't looking right with his face. So I decided to outline his beard and hair, and that made it look a lot better. I was really happy with how the coloring was turning out. It really made things stick out, and it looked like cartoony. It looked nice. I was really glad with how it was turning out. So as you can see, I'm coming down to the chest plate, and I'm just outlining. And I'm basing this off of a picture. I'm comparing this to like a picture of armor, or just a picture of Steve with armor, so I kind of get an idea. So I tried to do the pixels and everything as accurately as I could. Came over to the other side, did the same thing. I pretty much do the same thing for his arms and his legs. Now when I got to the legs, things started to get a little harder because the legs were longer, and so the outline had to be longer. And I don't know why it was hard, it just was. I don't know how to exactly explain it. It just kind of was hard to do. It was longer, it was harder to shade in because I had a little less space to color in. And one thing that I noticed I wasn't too happy about, but then when I looked back, I was actually happy about. If you notice, the outline of the legs are kind of dark, but when you look up to the helmet, it's a lot lighter. The outline is a lot lighter compared to the outline of the legs. And I wasn't happy with that at first, but then I realized, hey, it'll look like, since the helmet is closer to the torch, it'll look like the light is stronger there, so it'll be brighter. But then the light will start to gradually get darker as you get lower and lower down the body, and as you got to the legs, it would be darker. And so I thought that actually created a nice effect, if you even know what I mean. So I'm just finishing up this leg over here. And then I just shade it in once again, just finishing up this little stuff. I'm being kind of quiet in this part because there's not really anything else to say, because it's basically just the same thing that I was talking about earlier. So I was really happy with how this look was turning out. You know, I thought it kind of looked like it was actually metal. It was actually armor. So then I came over here to the arm, shaded in with the same color of his face. did the same thing with the other arm. And then I came over to the sword and the torch. And for the hilt, for the handle of the sword and the handle of the torch, I used the same color so that it looked like it was wood. And I used a ruler right here, as you could see just a second ago, so that I could make sure that everything lined up perfectly, that it created a straight line. And as I said earlier, I didn't use a ruler. I was kind of just eyeballing it, but I wanted it a perfect straight line for the center of the sword, as you saw there. And I made sure that one side of the hilt of the sword was darker than the other side, kind of to show that it popped out at the center. So the fire was actually fun to do. And I wanted to create this effect. When you look into a flame, a candle, you kind of see that they have a flame within the flame, if you know what I mean. And that's kind of what I tried to create here. And things were starting to look good. And as you can see, this is kind of just the final product. I'm just touching up stuff. And I was a little more proud of how this actually turned out. But anyway, thanks so much for watching, guys. And if you want to see more time lapses or how to draw things like this, just let me know down in the comments. And so be sure to subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. Also, if you have any suggestions or things you thought I could have done a little better in this drawing, just let me know too. And I'll be sure to keep them in mind. But thanks, guys, and I'll see you later.